Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen.
Welcome to Ask Dr. Doreen. Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is here with us. And take a look.
Today. Happy Halloween, everyone.
There are no words. This is the best costume ever. I have to tell you, I love the fact that at CARD, everybody goes all in.
Oh, yeah, we're very serious about Halloween here.
And you're the fearless leader of it. I think there's something about people who work with children that are so great with children that you are so willing to play.
Of course. You know, it's funny. I was thinking this morning when I was getting ready that it's just, we did this, you know, adamantly every year because of the kids, right? And now that we're at headquarters, which is completely separated from the kids, we don't see the kids unless we go to one of our clinics. We still dress up because, you know, it is all about it. It's a kids' holiday. At CARD, we are very serious about it. As, you know, all those centers have competitions and we have open house for the kids. And
I love it.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
I love when new people come to work at CARD. And I the last couple of days, anytime I would ride in the elevator with any of the new people, I'd go, "Are you ready?"
Yep.
And they would go, "What? Ready for what?" And I would say to them, because, you know, CARD takes Halloween. This is serious business at CARD.
That's right.
And they go, "Oh, okay." And they were like, "Oh, it's okay to dress up as in costume." And I would say, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
Like, not that you'll be picked on if you don't, because there are plenty of people who didn't wear
That's
a costume.
true.
But there was so much excitement on the floor today. People just squealing with delight at
It's
so many
fun.
different people.
Yes, it's quite fun.
But I gotta say, I think you win everything because
Thank you.
this is hilarious. Absolutely
It's a fun
hilarious.
costume, yeah.
It's a wonderful, wonderful costume, and gonna be so much fun asking questions with you. Answering them as Zoltar.
I know. Here,
It's
this
too
is
fun.
gonna be.
Okay, so I do like to tell people that despite the silliness, Dr. Grand-Pichet is, I believe, the preeminent expert in autism in our time. And really, is there any other time than now for autism? Because this is where it's happening. And she's been working in this field for a ridiculously long amount of time.
40
Is
years.
it 40 years?
It's 40
We're
years.
really saying
Yeah,
40
it's-
years now.
it's wonderful.
It is wonderful.
Yeah.
It is wonderful, and I'm glad that you look at that. Look at it that way, and has been working with everyone from very small children up through senior citizens. So truly amazing. Plus, I don't highlight enough the fact that you were the founder of Autism Care and Treatment Today, which is to date given away, I believe, they've crested the 2 million mark
Yes,
now.
yes,
$2 million worth of grants. You've done a lot of wonderful things in the community.
Thank you very
You
much.
donate
It's a
this
pleasure.
hour to be with us to ask, for people to ask questions. We do like to give the disclaimer, though, that no expert in this field or any other field of this nature could give individual specific advice in this format.
That's
because you'd have to have eyes on and be looking at behavior. So she won't be giving you individual specific advice, but if you write in our specific, you really get to talk to one of the brightest minds that there is about possibilities. She'll give you information that you can take back to the local expert who has eyes on the case and can tell you, you know, you'll be more proficient in talking to them about what's going on.
Right. Thank
Okay,
you.
so our first question that I promised someone on YouTube that I would get to today. My son is 3 and autistic. He has started screaming, and I've tried videos and singing to replace that, but it happens so much throughout the day that it drives me crazy. And he's getting ready to start preschool, and I worry about him, how he's going to do as well.
Right.
So what can we tell this mom?
So, you know, we have to figure out the function of the screaming, and it could be so many different things. And depending on what the function is, and the function is the reason for the screaming. There's always a reason. Now, it's really important for our viewers to remember that these types of challenging behaviors are not part of the symptoms of autism. They are not a symptom of autism. They're usually, these are things that kind of are a side effect in the sense that in most cases, challenging behaviors are a form of communication, and sometimes they're just a form of self-stimulatory behavior. So we're gonna give you some options that you can think about. unless you're live, in which case please write to us and tell us when this occurs. Like to determine the function of a behavior, you have to figure out when the behavior happens and look at the situations right before it and right after it. Like, what is evoking this behavior per se? So here are some options. A child could scream when they want access to something. So they want to get something like a tangible object, or and they can't reach it, so they'll scream in order to get your attention that they want it. A child could scream if they want to avoid a situation. So for instance, they don't want to work, you ask them to do something, and they'll scream in order to get away from the work. A child could scream because they just want your attention. So they're not getting attention, they scream, you go over there and panic and do whatever it is to try to get them to calm down, and that's the attention they want. Or, you know, aside from all of those standard sort of functions, a child could scream just because they like the sound of screaming, and they're playing, and that's a self-stimulatory type of thing where they're playing with the sound. So it's really important to identify which one of these it is, because if it's a self-stimulatory type of thing, like he's just screaming and there's no apparent reason and it seems like he's enjoying it, then you need to take away his ability to hear it, which means every time he screams, you got to put some headphones on or something where he's not able to play with that sound anymore. If he's screaming because he wants access to an object, you have to make sure he does not get access to the object when he screams, because that's not going to be what you don't want him to think it's effective to scream and get the object. If he screams in order to get outside or avoid the situation, you have to make sure he cannot avoid the situation. If he screams just to get attention, you have to make sure you don't give attention. Bottom line is, you have to make the screaming ineffective. And that's why it's so important to figure out what he is trying to accomplish by screaming. What is the function?
I'm kind of struck by, I know it's a little ridiculous. You're watching Dr. Grant-Pichet.
I apologize. It's
Zoltar. But, you know, part of me wants to have a ding and have you put out a card that has all the instructions. But it is sort of funny that, you know, you put a quarter into the Zoltar machine and you get something, right? Which is exactly what the transaction is with your child.
Absolutely.
That you know, your child is doing something. He's putting a quarter in you in hopes of getting a reaction, always, whatever it is.
Definitely.
And what he's discovered is if he puts the scream quarter into you, he gets something. And if you figure out what it is,
that's right,
and not give it then, because if you stand at the Zoltar machine and keep putting quarters in, and the Zoltar machine never gives you a card, eventually you go, this is broken, I'm gonna go on to another machine.
That's right.
And that's really what we want to do with our kids, is get them to put a different quarter in or a different machine in.
That's right.
So we don't give them what the expectation was.
Exactly.
And figuring it out what the expectation is can sometimes be hard, but sometimes it's relatively easy.
That's right.
And the thing that I love that you guys tell us is that when there is something that happens that's called an extinction burst, is when you stop giving them whatever the thing is that they were putting the quarter in, initially they'll stop doing it. But then all of a sudden it's like they upped their game.
Oh,
so
yeah, it'll be a major increase before it stops. It's kind of like the Zoltar experience you were saying. It's like, wait a minute, my quarter used to work before. I'm going to put 5 more quarters in there.
Right.
And then when they finally realize, nope, it's just not working anymore.
Right, exactly. But what happens to us as parents is when they start putting more quarters in, we go, oh, look, it's not working. But what was told to me and what I love is when you see that uptick, then you know you're exactly right. Then you know you just got to wait it out. You go, oh, I got it right. I just got to wait it out until this is over. And they exhaust themselves and then they move on.
That's right.
It's a brilliant, brilliant thing.
Absolutely. The extinction burst is so important, because when you give in during the extinction burst, like when the child has now increased the screaming, and that's when you go give attention or give them what they want because you think things aren't working, you've now actually taught the child that louder screaming, excessive screaming is what's required.
Yeah.
So you've actually made the behavior worse without being aware of it. It's tough.
It is. It's really, really tough. And I know you say all the time to, you know, get help if you need to when you're doing something that you're going to put something on extinction. That is what you're doing, is saying, I'm going to cut off the supply of whatever the reward is. I'm going to stop rewarding this behavior.
Right.
And that's a tough thing. But I guarantee you that I've seen this work with my kid, and I've seen it work with a bunch of other kids. When you find the right thing and you cut off the supply, you're just a short distance away from your life being better.
Right.
And their life being better.
Absolutely.
I always tell the story about how the first time that I saw this was when my kid was hitting his head on the kitchen floor, and he would hit his head on, I would ask him to do something, and he would hit his head on the kitchen floor. And instead of making him do the thing that he needed to do, I would then scoop him up, rub his head, give him lemonade and cookies, right? Because I was like, why is my baby hurting himself? And I was so, you know, in the turmoil that we get in, and me thinking, is this the rest of our lives? And what has gone wrong? And just in all the emotion of that. And the first time somebody was there to walk me through the, you know, putting it on extinction, and the therapist said to me, go, instead of responding to it, we made sure he was safe and locked up the room where he would bang his head on the floor so he could only, you know, hit his head on the carpet. But when I walked away, he didn't want to hit his head on the carpet anymore. He came over and started pulling on my pants, because what he wanted was that attention, right? So they had me watering plants and dusting furniture. And it was exhausting. It was so exhausting, and I almost gave up. But the therapist said to me, don't give up, stick in. And so when he finally did stop, my very nonverbal child, when he finally stopped and realized he wasn't going to get it by tantruming, he said, Mama. And you know, it was like, for me, the lights went on, and I went, okay, this thing works.
Wow.
This therapy works, and I have a part to play in it. Not that it's my fault, right? Because we all get into blaming ourselves. It's not my fault. I didn't know what I didn't know. But if I change my behavior, he changes his behavior. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Because there's so much in the world of autism where we feel like we don't have any power.
Yeah.
And I honestly, this is where you get the power back, is by paying attention. What is it they want?
Definitely.
Don't give it to them when it's something that they're doing that you don't want them to do, but do give it to them when they're doing something you do want them to do.
Yeah.
Man.
Absolutely. And you know, I mean, it works with everyone. Like, if you really think about it, and I don't want to, it's funny because I remember giving many years ago, I was lecturing at UCLA. This is when I was a student there, a grad student, and I was giving a lecture instead of my professor Lovos, who wasn't there. And I was talking about this exact concept, and because everybody you're teaching are young students, right? And I was telling them it's the same, like with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, it's the same thing. If they do something bad, just don't pay attention, right? And then it'll get worse before it gets better. And once it gets better, that's when you want to pay attention.
Yes, I don't know if my husband is watching, but he's been ABA'd at times.
Yeah.
So, and I would guarantee you that he is ABA'd me back
as well.
So there we have it. It's a fabulous thing. All right, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to continue on with more of your questions, and you can be writing into us right now in the live feature on Facebook and on YouTube. Stick with us. Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. We're here with Dr. Doreen Grant-Piché. It's Halloween. If you're just tuning in, you might be wondering, who is Shannon dressed as? Well, you have to guess. It shouldn't make sense to you. I don't have all the costume elements on. It shouldn't make sense to you until my better half, Nancy Allspot Jackson, is here. We always dress together for Halloween. And a lot of times we have to do a show before Halloween. This is a rare treat that Halloween is actually the day we're doing a show. Very exciting for us. So you'll have to see that at the top of the hour, but you can write in and see if you can guess correctly who it is that I am. But I can tell you that I'm not wearing all of the elements of the costume yet. But we are also doing serious business, answering questions about autism while we're having fun. Dr. Grant-Piché is dressed as the amazing Zoltar today. It's one of the best costumes I've ever seen.
It's difficult to give advice wearing this, right?
Well, but there is an element about it that's kind of appropriate.
Yeah,
but I
that's
keep
true.
saying that I want it to say ding And do you have cards to give out? You have your fortune cookies.
I have cookies, yeah, which my daughter was kind enough to go buy late last night because she was like, "You have to give fortunes out." So
It takes a village, right?
Yes.
It absolutely takes a village. Halloween is such a hectic time in our house. We had like glue guns and things out this morning, and everybody was helping everybody. In any case, we are, like I said, we're having fun, but we're also alternating with serious business, answering your questions on Facebook, YouTube, and questions that have been written into us. So, very serious question here. Is preschool important for children on the autism spectrum? What is recommended? A preschool for children on the spectrum or a neurotypical preschool? The hours of the preschool conflict with my son's ABA hours. As of now, our ABA provider only has mornings available. I would hate to lose them. They are amazing. We get some form of this question a lot. People wanting to know, honestly, how to prioritize and what to do. And it's pretty individual, I would imagine.
It is very individualized, but the general rule I would say is that if your child is extremely high functioning and is going to benefit from being around other children, then it becomes really important for them to actually be in a preschool environment and be able to play and interact and do all these fun things. But in general, I would say ABA will trump anything else because it is really, really important. Am I losing my mustache? Is that what's going on? That's okay. It's super, super important to be able to have the ABA take place. I always say the mornings the kids are more just awake and fresh, and they can actually benefit more. So if I were you, preschool, your child is so young, you don't need to worry about it. I would actually do ABA, not worry about it, because the more important thing about schooling for our children is that they're high functioning enough, or they get to a point where they are able to actually benefit from being in social environments. Most of our children, if your child is nonverbal or has very delayed communication, has delayed social skills and so on, believe me, they're not going to just pick that stuff up by being around other children. They're not going to suddenly miraculously start playing. Even if your child is interested in other children, the ABA teaches the child how to interact, how to socialize, how to communicate appropriately. And then when all of that is done, you will be able to actually benefit a lot more from the school environment. I would suggest that you not worry about preschool, have your child do ABA, and then maybe if the child is free in the afternoons, you can still take your child to other social activities like a gym program or sports, athletics, those types of things. Or music, any kind of like choir or whatever, those types of activities where they also will have access to other kids. Don't worry about academics at all. You have plenty of time. And then perhaps by kindergarten, maybe 1 or 2 years, you do intensive ABA, and then by kindergarten, you'll be ready to actually benefit from a school environment. Even when we integrate our kids into kindergarten or first grade, we will send a ABA therapist with the child, so that there is basically, the child is never really alone, and there's going to be a shadow with the child. So that's what I would recommend. But again, if the child is extremely high functioning, already able, what we would have called in the old days Asperger's, then your child may benefit from preschool already now.
Well, and we've been doing a lot of talking recently about listening for the question that isn't being asked. And when I see a bunch of parents asking these same questions, I'm always now asking myself, what's the question that isn't being asked? We're one of the things that came up in conversation is that we love Disney, right? We love Disneyland, and Disneyland is considered the happiest place on earth. And one of the things that they do in their trainings there is that they teach their employees how to listen for the question that isn't being asked. Do you know what the most frequent question is asked on Main Street? Is that people ask, what time does the 3 o'clock parade start?
Interesting.
What time does the 3 o'clock parade start? And, of course, you know,
That's so funny.
normal people would want to be like, dude, it starts at 3.
3 o'clock,
You gave
yeah.
me the information in the question that you asked. But Disney teaches their people. So what are the questions that those people are really asking? It's a way of starting a conversation. If you think about it, it's a lot how our kids are, right? They do movie talk or whatever to open the conversation.
Absolutely.
Is it right? But, you know, we do that too. So here's the thing that I'm going to say about this is that I feel like when parents ask questions about should we do preschool or not, that, and what's the recommendation for it, that really what's happening is that school is putting pressure, saying
That's
you
possibly,
have to bring your child, that, and family puts pressure and says,
Yeah.
why aren't you going to school? And school will sometimes make you feel guilty and like you're not a good parent for keeping your child home for a year or 2 to do
Right.
therapy rather than go to preschool. We're kind of bombarded with things. There's commercials that play on TV that say kids do better if they go to preschool, right?
That's right.
So it makes it hard for a parent to choose to do something else. And I can only say that that was my experience, that I had a wall full of people telling me, oh, he's got to go to school, he's got to go to school. Well, he was nonverbal and didn't know how to play with other kids. And we made the decision to put him in intensive ABA for at least a year before going to preschool, from the time he was 3 to 4. And man, the school acted like I had committed a crime.
Yes.
They sued us.
What?
They
Oh my
filed
God.
papers and sued us.
Wow.
Because they wanted to be in open court and say that we had picked something that wasn't advantageous to make an example of us. So believe me when I say I know what it's like to be
Good
pressured
Lord,
and
that's
told.
crazy.
And you know what? That year,
Changed his life.
when I look back, like, you know, people say, what's the one thing you know for sure? I know for sure we made the right choice that year. I get goosebumps when I think about what happened in that year and the difference
Wow.
that year made. And even the school, the first, you know, he went in for his first IEP and they you know, did their assessment and they offered him the most severe placement, the most restrictive placement, and they considered him moderate to severe. A year at CARD intensively, where we ramped up to 40 hours. And at the end of the year, the school wanted to assess him again. And they sent somebody who'd never seen him before. And they offered him full inclusion. And our child was included thereafter.
Wow.
After 1 year. That's the difference that year made. But please know that I had to fly in the face of my family and, you know, friends who are educators and school administrators, and appear before judges,
Yes.
and plead my case. So there were a whole lot of people telling me that this was not what was best.
That's
But
terrible.
I know for sure that it was. So I put that out to you. If you're asking the question about, you know, should I, even though school is saying that he belongs at school, I am a former teacher. I know how great a school environment is if you're ready. And if you're not, then you know, a year of doing ABA intensively can only help a child to be more ready. And for some kids, it might take 6 months. For some kids, it might take 2 years or
Definitely.
3 years before they're ready to go into the classroom. But it's very individual, but I know that it's worth it.
Absolutely. That's such a good example, too. I mean, I can't imagine that a school would actually do something like that. That's crazy.
They sued us twice.
That's unbelievable.
A couple
to
of
me.
years later, they sued us again.
For this time, for what?
Because they felt that what we were asking for was inappropriate. We were asking for them. I have to be careful because of what I can say and what I can't say because of settlements and things. But I can say what we were asking for. We were asking for them to continue having CARD consult in the classroom, and for them to contribute towards that.
That's amazing.
And they filed suit against us twice. I think I'm the only person I know that has had due process from the school filed against us twice.
Wow.
And then whenever I say that around lawyers, they go, oh no, you mean you filed due process. And I go, no, I know exactly what I'm saying and what I mean.
It's crazy
and they did
to
it
me. It's just amazing.
Twice. That's okay. Everything worked out,
Yeah.
right? I didn't know it at the time, but it meant that we were asking for things that were right and they were afraid.
That's right.
And
you know
we
what? It
forged
made
ahead.
it less likely for them to ever do it again
Well,
to someone else.
That's the thing. I do recall them telling me that they would never, ever, ever vendor with card. That would never, ever, ever, ever happen. And of course, they vendor with card. So there we have it. Anyway, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back with more of your questions. Stick with us. Welcome back to Autism Live. We are here on Halloween with a very special episode. Right now, it is during Ask Dr. Doreen. Dr. Doreen Grampichet is here with us. She is dressed as
Also
Zoltar.
known as Zoltar.
You do not need to adjust your computer. It is what it looks like. Is that not the best?
You know what's
costume
funny
ever?
is because I'm laughing and smiling, and yet my face doesn't really change much, like with these.
It really
but my
doesn't.
mustache does fall off a few times
Yes,
today.
the
so
more
that's
she
all right.
talks, the more the more.
I'll try to be careful.
No,
about
no, no,
that,
no.
yeah.
We'd rather have the question and have the mustache
Yes.
fall. Plus, which there's high comedy in the mustache falling off, so
That's
it's
true.
all okay. In any case, okay. So we've had a lot of people writing in lately about getting started at CARD, and I thought it might be interesting.
Yes.
This question in particular kind of cut to my heart. They said, I would like to make an appointment to see the therapist for ABA. Can I call to make the appointment, or do I have to go online? It's too difficult.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So that's online. Yeah. No, you can call. You can definitely call. Go on our website at CARD and the Center for Autism. Actually, we should try to give them the phone number. Huh? I think I don't know what the admissions phone number is, but if you want to just call the reception, you can call 818-345-2345. Area code 818-345-2345, and then ask for admissions, and they'll send you to admissions, and then you can talk to them there. You do not have to necessarily go online.
And I know that there was a period of time when you could only call the 800 number, right? And then CARD made a portal on the website so that you could get started at 3 o'clock in the morning if you wanted to, and you could start uploading your documents, and that's a wonderful thing. But there was a period of time in which they were trying to get everybody to go on the portal because they wanted to see if that worked. But a lot of people have written in and said, I need help. And this would be me. I am inept. I'm realizing.
Or we need to make the portal easier if that's what's happening.
Well, I think sometimes, a lot of us weren't raised with technology.
Of course.
Right?
Me
And
too,
so
yeah.
it depends on your age, and it depends on whether, that stuff is intuitive for you or not.
Or if you have access. I think some of the times we just don't have access to computers.
And that's the case too. But I love that in just a few days, that there is now going to be a call center.
That's right. That's right.
And you'll be able to call. There's the phone number right there. Thank you so much, Gabriel. 855-345-CARD. You'll be able to call in. That call center is not active yet, although you can call the number and get through to someone or get a machine. But there will be a call center that's going to be coming so that all of these kinds of things can be dealt with individually.
Right.
One of the things that I love about CARD is that they do listen. And I know sometimes it takes asking more than once because it takes a couple of people to say, hey, I'm having that issue too, but CARD is responsive. I know a lot of you have written in and said that, can we have more for teens and adults? And there's a very exciting thing that's happening this Sunday in Duarte, California. They're having an open house for the very first ever CARD center that is specifically for teens and adults.
I know. I'm so excited about it.
I'm so proud of you guys.
Thank you. We
It's a
finally
wonderful
did
thing.
it.
Yes.
I know.
Yes.
It's amazing.
We now have full hilarity.
I've lost my
It's
mustache.
like right on your necklace.
Oh, okay, good.
Right about. It's actually, I said, full hilarity.
Thank you. I think I'm just going to leave it that
It
way
might
for
be.
the rest of the session.
But in any case, not to take away from the teens and the adults program.
Yes.
So this Sunday, in Duarte, California, there is a new center. It is actually open now, but they're having the open house on Sunday. It's from 12 to 3. I know my son and I are going to try to drop by at some point during that window of time. But I know that more will be coming, and if it's something that you're not near Duarte, please make your voice be heard. Write in, and you can write in and tell me here in any of the ways that we have, and I filter all of that to meetings and let people know what it is you guys are asking for or what you guys are suggesting. And when you have other things on your mind, other things that you're saying, hey, you know what would be great, don't let that, you know what they say, die in committee, the committee in your head. Don't let it die in committee in your head. Write to us, tell us. Yesterday, I had something tremendous happen that somebody wrote in on YouTube and asked us, they love our jargon piece, and but there were things, verbal operants that I have not covered. That I did not know about.
Oh.
They were asked, but I knew about them, but I just didn't know that that's what the terms were.
And you put them in now?
But I haven't yet, but I intend to. I just have to get a little bit, smarter. I have to learn about it before I can talk about it,
Yes,
right?
sure.
But they were asking to do a piece on textural, but not textural prompts about verbal operants, which I had never thought of. I did not know they were verbal operants, I have to be honest. I thought of it as a prompt, but not a verbal operant.
Okay.
And that they wanted transcription. And then when I was looking that up, I found out about autoclitic, which I had never heard that term before, ever. I was like, what? There are things that I've never, ever heard. How much more is there?
You need to get your BCATs, I'm telling you.
I took the test.
Did you really?
I passed with
know.
flying colors the very first time it was offered.
Then you have
But
to...
I didn't do all the rest. Because there's a lot of hours you have to do
yes,
it.
the
But I passed the test.
That's
first time it was
wonderful.
offered.
Of course, amazing. Thank you.
Yes,
Good job.
absolutely. Wanted to see if I could. I encourage all parents. We should talk for just a second about what the BCAT is. Do you want us to tell them, or you want me to tell them?
Maybe you should, so I don't have to deal with my mustache that's falling off.
It's funny.
I told you this morning I was dealing with the beard. So I ended up crazy gluing the beard, but I'm not gonna crazy glue the mustache. Let me tell you,
I'm still worried about the fact that you crazy glued the bottom.
It's gonna
half
be fun
of it.
taking it off tonight.
What's funny is if you take the box off for just a second. If you don't see the box, you look a little like Mario.
I do.
From Mario
Good point.
Brothers. So that's cracking me up a little bit. Okay.
Yes.
So BCAT, which stands for Board Certified Autism Technician. We've talked a lot on the show before about the RBT, which is being a registered behavior technician. And when you become a registered behavior technician, that's a fabulous thing. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's specific to autism. Depending on where you study and which course you take, you might find out more about things that are about ABA but not autism specific. But BCAT is very specific to autism. And so that's a really fabulous thing. If you are somebody who has a child who's on the autism spectrum and you're like me as a parent, I still have a sign when we moved, recently I moved it, that says, Jem's team is only as strong as its weakest player, and I will not be the weakest player on the team. I will not.
Yeah.
Right? So if you feel like me and you want to learn more, there is a wonderful website where you can go and take online classes for very inexpensive amount, less than one college class to take the entire course to become an RBT or a BCAT. And that's at ibehavioraltraining.com. ibehavioraltraining.com. You can do it at your own speed. Like you really, to take the coursework, to be ready to take the test, you could do it as quickly as 1 week. If you were doing nothing else.
Absolutely. Because it's 40 hours. You definitely could, yes.
So, but if you want to take a long time, the thing when you do the RBT, if you're going to take the coursework and then and do the RBT, you have to complete it within 6 months. So that's the only thing with that. But right now you could register to take the test for the BCAT. I took it and I passed.
Yes.
And I love that a lot of people study for the BCAT by watching our jargon.
that's so great.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
So, but I don't remember autoclitic being on the BCAT exam. I don't
Maybe
think
not.
it was on
It's a
there.
little bit more, advanced and sort of
It's
not
more
really.
Skinner.
Yeah.
Yeah. I found out yesterday, I did some research. I was down the rabbit hole. What autoclitic, oddly enough, we were talking about self-language and how we think in our head the other day, and I just didn't know the term.
That's it.
So there we have it. Okay, moving on. Should we take a break or do you want another question?
I'm good.
Okay, so hi, I'm a new BCBA and I am struggling with joint attention with my new client that has a lot of self-stimulatory behaviors. I only have 1 hour a week with him, and even though I have sanitized the environment, I bring new novel toys with me every week. He is happy making noises and walking back and forth in the room and does not sit with me. I know you will know how to help me. I love the show. Well, thank you. We love you back.
That's lovely. Yeah. Very
I do want
nice.
to point out that it's a BCBA, which is a board certified behavior analyst. And so they're saying that they only have 1 hour a week. I don't want anybody to think that this child is only having 1 hour a week of therapy, because that would be pointless.
Yeah. I don't really think you should be focusing on advanced concepts like joint attention at this point. I think what you're trying to, you're referring to it perhaps as joint attention, but I think what you really need here is just for the child to be attending to you and able to interact with you or start to become compliant, or let's just say be aware of your requests. So he is making noises and walking back and forth. What I would do right now is I would just start with a primary reinforcer, like a food item that the child wants, and I would ask the child to come and get it from you, and I would do a very, very minimal request. So either a brief moment of looking at you, or even just coming and getting it from you, and then gradually sitting down and getting it from you, and then gradually coming, sitting down, and then prompt for eye contact and getting it from you. In other words, if this is a child who has been running around all the time, they're not, and it looks like you're having a hard time even getting his attention with toys, I would drop to primaries. Start using a primary reinforcer and reduce your demand to the most very basic, and then shape it up from there. It's always nice to speak with a BCBA because you can just throw in all the jargon.
And shape it up from there. Okay, but there was something that you said, though, that I was thinking, for parents, and now I can't remember what it was. Oh, tell us why food, because parents we go, why does it have to be food? Why does everything have to be food-centric?
Yeah, so it's not about the food. There's just certain things that are primary reinforcers. That means that they are naturally reinforcing without being taught. So for instance, to adults, it's possible that we could say, let's say, money is a reinforcer. Obviously, everybody works. That's why we go to work. We work in order to get money. But money is not a primary reinforcer. It's actually a token. It's a secondary reinforcer, which essentially means that it is something that has been associated with primaries. So one of the main reason we want money is to purchase food. If you think about it, survival, right? Or comfort, or those types of things. So anything that is naturally reinforcing, so such as food, is considered to be primary. Anything that is learned is a secondary reinforcer, and primaries are more effective. With our kids, it's very, very hard often to determine what their secondary reinforcers are. Like a lot of times we think that our children should like one thing or another, but hey, they don't. Like some children hate being touched or hugged. Other children crave it. Some children, like the feeling of water on their face. Other children hate it. Some children will love the attention you give them. Other children are completely indifferent to attention, or they're disturbed by the sound of it. So it's very hard, and when you have a hard time identifying what is reinforcing, you always drop down to the primaries, because that's naturally reinforcing for everyone. That's the real reason. And then you get away from it. Obviously, you will ultimately not want to live with primaries as your only reinforcer, but you will gradually pair the primary now with social. Like one of the first things we do is we reinforce the child by giving a small piece of food, but we're also cheering and or hugging or so on, and so that over time the child's primary reinforcer is paired with the social. A lot of times with our kids, they're not enjoying the social yet. I see a smile on your face. Is the mustache falling again? Or?
Yes, but I'm just laughing at something that my husband wrote in because he is watching. He said, "I love that you're asking Zoltar, do you want to take a break or shall I ask you another question?"
That's so great.
Yes. Okay. Back to the primary reinforcers. I totally derailed us. So I think it's really important because parents,
You worry
reinforcer
about,
speak
yes.
isn't the thing that but what I know is that a lot of times, and it goes hand in hand with talking about our toy guide, because we want our kids to play, we want our kids to hug us, we want our kids to talk, we have all this list of things that we want our kids to do, and we don't know how to get them to do it, and experts will come on the show and talk about, well, reinforce, and then parents write in and go, but what if my kid doesn't like anything?
Right.
The truth of the matter is that everybody has primary reinforcers.
That's right.
And maybe your kid is, food sensitive and doesn't like a lot of things, but kids generally will like at least one thing, and that's the place you start.
Right, and if they don't necessarily like one thing, you just don't overfeed them. Like, in other words, hunger is a natural thing that happens to everyone. So at some point or another, every human being will want food.
And drink.
And drink. And those are the two things that you use until you can figure it out. Yeah, I know. This is like
You're
just
half
complete comedy today. I
But
apologize.
no, and I'm sorry that I keep attending to it. But in any case, I've been around BCBAs way too long that I just said I'm attending to it. Okay.
Yes.
Anyway, I've turned to the dark side. Did everybody see that? But it's so, I know, because I was this parent, that it's this frustrating thing where you kind of box yourself in the corner where you say, well, I don't want to do something that's unnatural, but I want to figure out how to teach my child.
Right.
And I think what's important for people to know
Yes.
is that it like everything else in life, it changes. You aren't going to end up reinforcing your child by feeding them, little pieces of potato chip the rest of their lives.
Right.
That's not what's going to happen. It's just a stepping stone
Right.
into other things.
That's
if
right.
done properly,
That's
and
right.
if you're paying attention, that will be faded away. The thing that is loved will be paired together with something that they have a neutral reaction
Exactly.
to until they love that thing.
Exactly.
And then you have a wider variety of things, and you don't have to do food all the time.
That's right.
And eventually you fade it out so that there is no reinforcement for those things anymore.
That's exactly
It is
right.
beautiful how it works.
I don't know why we're okay with things like a pacifier or giving a child a lollipop or whatever, but we're not okay with this, So
Because of us.
Yes,
not-
it's just
because
us
of
defining
being-
what's okay.
Yes.
That's right.
I know I was like, I have issues with food. Food is my big reinforcer. And I did not want to put that on him. And so I didn't want them to use food as a I was the biggest pain in the neck about it. The biggest pain
You
in
were
the neck
worried
about
about it, yeah.
Oh, no, I wasn't just worried about it. I was like, no, you can't do that. I was that horrible parent. And they would wheedle around me a little bit and say, just for this, can we just do it for this? And I would go, all right, but you're giving him a hot dog. There's no candy. We're not doing candy. There was one therapist in particular who really wanted me to do gummy bears, and I was like, it's not happening. There are no gummy bears coming into my house. Everybody in my family is diabetic. We're not giving a 2-year-old a gummy bear. Like, it was the worst thing that could ever happen in the world.
I understand, yeah.
Like she was going to feed him toxic poison. Honestly, that was my reaction to it. And we didn't do the gummy bears. We survived. I think it took us longer to do what she wanted to do. But the other thing I want to say, though, too, now that we brought up the food and allowing a child to get hungry, because I don't want people to write in and go, you're starving children. That's not what we're talking about at all.
No, not at all, not at all.
But it's like, I love when other parents ask me, how is it that I get my child to eat vegetables? The trick that I learned from a good friend who has children who are not on the spectrum was, she said, I know that there are certain times of the day when they're automatically hungry, and that's when I put out a plate of vegetables. When I'm cooking dinner and they come home from school, there's a plate of raw vegetables that's there, and it's amazing.
That's a good point.
How they get
Absolutely.
eaten because... And I love when people say, well, my kid won't eat this and my kid won't eat that, but they go on vacation and they're at the hotel and they don't have the thing, and suddenly their kid will eat other things.
Definitely.
Because hunger wins, but we're not talking about doing the Joan Crawford thing where you feed them the same pork chop
No, of
for
course not. No,
17
of course.
meals.
Right, right. No.
We're not talking about that at all. We're just saying being mindful and choosing what you give and when you give, and not feeding them every hour on the hour.
When you need food to be effective. It's like
Yeah.
toys. It's the same thing. If you give a child 100 toys a day, no new toy is going to be interesting.
Right.
So-
Right. There you have it. Okay, we've only got a couple of minutes left, so I want to get to this last one. We need a functional behavior analysis for our young adult family member in Tacoma, Olympia, Seattle area. And then it says most everyone just seems to have child clients, not adults in this area. We have an office that's
We
up
do,
there.
and of course we do FBAs for adults as well.
Yeah.
So please contact our office up there.
centerforautism.com and take a look. All you have to do is scroll down by state. So that would be Washington, yes, or Oregon.
Seattle,
I get
Washington, I
confused.
guess,
And
yeah.
So we have offices. We have an office in Tacoma.
Yes, we do.
So and look and see if there's one that's closer, because you said it's this area. And but you can still call the number that we put up earlier, and say I want a functional behavior analysis. If it is
Assessment.
Assessment. And if it's, I will say that if it's somebody that's in school and the behavior is happening in school, schools are supposed to
That's right.
have someone who can come and do an FBA.
They must have one. Yes, they have to.
They're supposed to.
Yes.
I mean, I've met places where they say, yeah, on paper they have somebody, but that somebody serves 18 school districts,
Right,
and
right.
we can get an FBA in about a year. The other thing is, and I can't find my skills tent anywhere, but skillsforautism.com, that you can go there, and they have an indirect
Yeah, that's a
functional-
CFA, so you would answer a bunch of questions on there. It's called an indirect functional assessment. So you're answering questions, and then it helps you identify the function.
There you go.
Yep.
So there's that. I hate to end the show, but we have to. This is hilarious.
It's
This
been
has
a pleasure.
so
Thank you
much
for
fun.
tolerating my falling off mustache.
Do you have a fortune for us, Zoltar,
I do.
before you leave?
Here we go.
Oh, okay.
You're going to have to choose the fortune,
Okay.
and then you can open it
Okay.
and see what it says.
And this will be for all of us. A bold and dashing adventure is in your future within the year. This
Wonderful.
year, I would assume then. This is for all of us, a bold and dashing adventure. And then we have lucky numbers so that we can win the Powerball. I'm so disappointed that we didn't win this last time.
I know.
I had plans. I had plans for all of us. Anyway, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, Nancy Allspot Jackson will be joining us, and then you will get to see the big reveal. Plus, we have two authors, count them two, that we're going to be interviewing during this show. Stick with us.